All right, today there was a new article against Yang, this time by Vox. During the third Democratic debate, Andrew Yang made a joke that played up an Asian stereotype. Now, I am Asian, so I know a lot of doctors, he quipped. It wasn't the first time he'd done so. 2 months earlier, during the second debate, he told viewers the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes math. Yang has also used such one-liners at rallies and sold merchandise alluding to these comments, including baseball caps and t-shirts simply emblazoned with the word math. Yang's statements have spurred mixed reaction from the Asian American community, while some of his supporters told Vox that the jokes are cheeky in-group references that acknowledge Yang's Asianness. Other voters are concerned they reinforce long-standing racist stereotypes about Asian Americans and other minority groups. I think there is a thing called positive racism. So if the first stereotype that comes to mind is that you're fully acquainted with a bunch of doctors, or you're smart in math, I'm trying to find out how that's and I'm not saying that it's right to think an entire group is one way, but those aren't like the worst ways I would want to be characterized at all. That's why he's saying them, but whatever. I feel like it's an in-group kind of comment. He is himself an Asian American, so he has the right to mention or allude to that stereotype on his terms. Yang supporter Mudit Verma told Vox regarding the candidate's recurring math references. University of Maryland American Studies professor Janelle Wong is among those who feel differently. I think he has done so much to counter stereotypes that undermines a lot of the important work that his campaign is doing, she told Vox. Yang himself has said that he's using these comments to poke fun at stereotypes and call for Americans to reflect a little bit more on them. While Yang may have inquis, wow, they have new words I've never seen before. I feel so uneducated. While Yang may have innocuous interactions with his comments, as he said in an interview with CNN's Jake Tapper this past weekend, the remarks are nonetheless reaffirming toxic stereotypes. Given his role as a high-profile Asian American presidential candidate, his message is something the tone for how many people may see Asian Americans, and perpetuating a damaging caricature in the process. Yang's statements on this subject matter because of how high profile he's become as a presidential candidate. This cycle, Yang is one of 3 historic Asian American and Pacific Islander candidates, a milestone that's been a source of pride for many Asian Americans I've spoken with. Because of his ascent to prominence, however, his words carry significant weight and frame not only his own candidacy, but how Asian Americans are perceived overall. Some Asian Americans have found Yang's comments humorous and argue that they're memorable one-liners, while others see them as amplifying troubling stereotypes. Here's my thing. I'm not gonna read the rest of this whole article. When you have a presidential candidate that wants to say what they want to say, and what they're saying about an ethnic group is positive, like, oh, I know doctors, or we're smart in math. I just don't, and especially if they're also part of that group, I don't really see a problem with that. I could kind of get it, and even then, it's like these are not bad things, and he's trying to. That's why I said they like, instead of talking about his policy proposals or something that actually matters, like, I don't know, what he intends to do when he gets in office, we're gonna get him for those comments he's made, poking fun at his own ethnicity. It's like, I'm sorry, but if anyone's stupid enough to think that Yang represents every single Asian American, then that's their problem. Like, they're just trying to, Vox is a place I usually like, but this article is kind of goofy because you can't tell someone who is part of an ethnic group that they can't refer to themselves and acknowledge the various stereotypes of that group, good or bad. That it's his whole thing is to have these be cheeky remarks that are designed to highlight how other people see them. Not everybody, but of course that there's some that view them that way, and to say, this is something that we recognize and that we can poke fun at, and we don't lose our minds over and get pissed over, because it's not, we're us getting upset isn't going to change anything. So that's how I see it. But Vox is on their own little roll.